we were sending emails and he said, welcome back from maternity leave, although I'm sure you did more work on your maternity leave than most people do in a year. I was like, well, you're not wrong. On the one hand, that is who I am. My work gives me energy, but it's then that balance of like, when is it stimulating and energizing, and where's the cutoff before it goes, I'm stressed and I'm tired and I'm just working on pure adrenaline here because things have to get done.
This is The Growth Moment with your coach, Amy Kay. Inspiration, ideas, and incredible insights for you to be more and do more. Get ready to grow today. Good Lord. This episode hits me right in the heart. It's not the first time that a client's challenge is my challenge. This is Amelia, and we're coaching on the chronic struggle of balance and boundaries. The very real dilemma of how the heck do you know when you've done enough? How do you turn off your work brain so you can be present in the rest of your life? This is an ongoing challenge for me. I probably wrestle with it every day. So this growth moment with Amelia has special personal resonance and relevance. I first coached Amelia when she was in high school with a dream of becoming a marine biologist, and we have continued on and off for almost 20 years. She is now a conservation scientist and research fellow at the University of Queensland in Australia with her husband, 2 small children, and a very full plate. She is a leading expert in her field and has an impressive doctorate in coral reef ecology, but I just like to call her the healer of oceans. Amelia is passionate, purpose-driven, incredibly able and suited for her life's calling. And she faces the challenge of living that calling with integrity and sustainability. If you ever feel like you're drowning in your myriad tasks and responsibilities, pulled between the different areas of your life, lying awake at night with a very busy brain, experiencing the diminishing returns of too much multitasking and not enough presence, this episode is for you. We coach on letting go, cutting down the to-do list, self-permission, restoration time, and paradigm shifts, figuring out what is enough. Also, you, me, and Amelia can bring our best, be our best, in a world that needs us to be on purpose with joy and the capacity to keep going. Let's jump in as Amelia explains why she's starting her growth moment with the topic of boundaries.
I think that there's like so many different layers of boundaries. In some respects, I've made peace with a lot of like my work habits, but the one thing I sort of want to be able to do is switch off more from work when I'm with Harley or with Nina, not kind of have that anxious feeling of I need to check my phone, or I can just have this Zoom meeting because Harley's playing on the ground and it's fine, or I feel like I'm going to, FOMO and I feel like I have to have this meeting. And I guess making more space for non-work things that are going to also help my life. So as an example, like I really wanted to get back to swimming. It's one thing I haven't been able to do since I got a lot of shoulder pain and neck pain from when I was breastfeeding Nina, and I haven't been able to shake it.
So a couple of years.
Yeah. And I've been doing a lot of work on it. And I said, one of my big goals is like, I want to go swimming. I want to get back to being able to swim because that for me is a real like way to de-stress and unwind. And I have not been to the pool once since I got back from maternity leave because it's been really hard to make space for myself to do that. So there's sort of multiple layers of boundaries. It's just being comfortable and not feeling that like anxious feeling of I need to check my email or I need to sort of be engaged.
Yeah, that's definitely where my spidey sense is getting activated. And I'm curious for sure of What's behind that anxiety? What are you afraid of missing out on, or what are you afraid of, period?
I don't know if it's a fear thing. I think part of it is a bit of, I guess, the work's never done, right?
Mm.
And I think for me, especially, or for my line of work, the work is done when there's no more pollution going onto coral reefs. I feel like I have such lofty work goals.
I can't rest until the planet is healed.
Right. And so, it makes it really hard to then say, I'm done.
I've done enough for today.
There's always more that I could be doing. And it's always on my mind. And in some ways it's energizing. Like,
Well, you got a big high level calling, so there's no doubt that it is uplifting and ennobling.
yeah. And in some things I've made peace with about my almost obsession with work. Like, for instance, I had all these craft projects that I wanted to do. And then I just realized, like, I'm never going to make time for craft projects. I don't really, the process of doing crafts, it's not how I want to spend my time. I just want a finished product. So I outsourced my craft activities. And I feel very comfortable with that. It was very actually liberating to say, I'm not a crafty person. This is not how I want to spend my time. I just want them done. So I got someone on Airtasker to do it. But it's the other things. It's like, oh, I'm lying in bed at night and I have this idea and I need to get it out of my head. So I need to jump out of bed and type myself an email at 11 o'clock at night. Or I'm just, I've got a couple of hours. Leon's taking the kids. I'm not going to sit down on the computer and get work done, which is what I would often do. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to read my book. I'm going to do nothing.
So, Amelia, a couple of pieces. What is the fundamental growth within your brain, within your being, that would have to take place for you to hold boundaries for this non-work life? What about you? How is your balance, boundaries, stress level? Do you need to improve how you switch between life areas? Be clear on when you've done enough for today. Create more space just for you. Be present in all of your life moments. Where are you on that fine line between feeling energized or overwhelmed? For Amelia, her work is done when there's no more pollution in the coral reefs. For me, I'm not done until everyone grows into their full potential. And for you, what is the limiting principle, for goodness sake? Who decides what's enough, what's good enough? Is it your boss, you, your family, society? For sure, it's clearly tricky if you are a solopreneur or own your own business. But all of my clients in corporations or organizations face the same dilemma. There is always more than any of us can possibly do in a given day, week, month, or year. The list is constantly refilling. Same for someone leading and growing a family. Are you kidding? Talk about a never-ending list. Coming to terms and dealing with all that life requires is foundational. What kind of balance do you crave? What is the fundamental growth needed in your being to have that balance? We go back in as Amelia explores what kind of shift or growth will help create balance.
I think like an acceptance that I can have a pause for a couple of hours and that's not going to be a make or break difference of whether the oceans are saved or not.
So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm going too. This seems to be beyond logic.
Right.
What literally is enough?
Yeah. I think it's been so long since I've had a real break as well that it's like I don't really remember what that feels like. Like we went to the beach months ago. I just said, okay, that's it. We just need to go on a beach holiday. I did feel this like, oh, my soul feels just great. Like we're just at the beach and we're just playing and I'm swimming and it felt wonderful. I mean, it had been a long time since we had been away just because of COVID and life.
And what's the lesson there? What allowed you, because that was then a big boundary with you kind of created a big space there for you and your family. How did you do that?
I kind of got to a breaking point, right?
Mm.
Like I was kind of got to a point where I was like, that's it. I need to go away.
Yeah, the growth is not having to come to a breaking point where you almost lose your mind.
And I think of like the other two times in the last few years where I've had a breaking point where I've said I had to put up really hard boundaries were because of health reasons.
I was gonna say your body put up the boundary where it said, "Screw you. You're not doing it. I'm not, we're stopping."
And I joked at the time with people because I said, I really like with my after my car accident last year with my back, I had no choice. I had to just cut the fat and say, I can't do these things because I cannot sit. And so this is an activity that requires me to be seated at a desk and I physically can't do that. And I went to the pool every day and I felt just great despite this debilitating back injury. And I kind of joked that I said, I should do that more frequently. It shouldn't take a debilitating back injury to make me.
Sure shit shouldn't. My thought is, one, I'm also intrigued by you said it's many layers of boundaries. So I definitely want to push into that in a second. But what gets to stay? Because you said like cutting the fat. What gets to stay within and what has to go? Because I mean, I know you well enough. You've got more to do than ever could be done.
And I'm signed up to do more.
And you alone can't heal the oceans all by yourself anyway.
No.
So we've coached over the years enough for me to, for sure put the reins in your hands and go, okay, babe, what do we need to look at? What's in and what's out? Or what's the mind shift and the heart shift that allows you to create the space? Or is it practical schedule? Like, okay, this is what the new life looks like in 2022. Where do you want to go with this?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like things that I could say, be better going forward about not signing myself up to. I could probably be, a bit more strategic about collaborations but then that this is the challenge is that there's things that come across my desk now that are really exciting and I want to be engaged in because I think that that's either going to be really valuable or really intellectually stimulating. I've been trying to set up a time to meet with a work friend and we were sending emails and he said, welcome back from maternity leave. Although I'm sure you did more work on your maternity leave than most people do in a year. I was like, well, you're not wrong. On the one hand, that is who I am. My work gives me energy, but it's then that balance of like, when is it stimulating and energizing and where's the cutoff before it goes, I'm stressed and I'm tired and I'm just working on pure adrenaline here because things have to get done. And it's like I equate it in my brain to like spinning plates where, you like have to spin a plate and that one gets going and then another plate, you spin that one. And throughout my whole work life, it's like there's times where they're balanced perfectly and only one or two plates needs attention at a time. But I could have like 10 plates spinning. And then sometimes all 10 plates need attention. And it's those moments where I just go, it's too much. This isn't fun anymore. I'm doing this because having unfinished tasks or dropping the ball makes me feel a lot of anxiety. So I'm attending to these plates because of anxiety about not performing as opposed to energized and enjoying the activity.
We've talked enough about this, a couple months or so ago when, you did do a rebalance and a reset and you're like, all right, I'm going to make a point to go do these things with my children and I'm going to turn things off. So there's so much around boundaries and resets that you already know, but I'm looking for the bigger paradigm shift here of how do you need to look at all of this? So, a few thoughts. It's not just the full plate. Many people do beautifully with a full plate. Spinning plates, whatever metaphor you prefer. I've had times where I amaze myself with my awesome plate spinning. It's when it's just too much. The anxiety creeps in. Lying awake with that panicked shit. How am I going to do everything? When you're pushing through from adrenaline and stress about dropping the balls or not performing well enough. This is the point of diminishing returns when it's so not fun anymore. I want you to be operating from a place of energy, joy, and ease. Amelia is pointing towards the solution. The growth that changes the game is the true acceptance that a pause won't make or break your purpose or goals. That you don't have to get to a breaking point to do a reset, change the paradigm. So, how good are you with the proactive pause? Putting enough of my soul feels great moments on your list. Do not wait for the physical, emotional, or logistical breaking points that force the issue. You grant permission for balance. The breaking point is not a healthy place to look for permission. You know this. I know it. But it's not a one and done activity. Managing life well requires frequent pauses for reflection, reset, and restoration. Getting off the hamster wheel so you can figure out what to cut, where to lay down the boundaries, and redo your schedule. Now, let's listen one more time as Amelia describes how she needs to look at all of this to get a more lasting paradigm shift. While you listen, think about the shift you need.
I can't control how much I sleep to a certain degree, right? I can't control how much
Mm-hmm.
my children wake me up at night. What I can control is that I don't work into the evening. I can control that I'm not sitting there sort of anxiously checking my emails at 10 o'clock at night to see what's coming in from the US. I want to be able to control calming my mind and being able to shift, turn my brain off. Like Leon and I joke about this all the time because I'll say to him, "What are you thinking about?" He'd be like, "Nothing. I'm thinking about nothing."
And you're thinking about like 50 things.
Right. I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand. I mean, it to the point. This is the extreme level of like, I can't turn off my brain. I remember when I was preparing for giving birth with Nina, I was reading a book. It was describing sort of the childbirth process and talked about this, that women get into this sort of like trance-like state. And I decided after reading that, then and there, that I didn't want to have a medicated birth and delivery because I was like, wow, that might be a time where my brain is actually singularly focused on one activity and is not thinking about work. Like that
Mm.
was for me was one of the things I was looking forward to about labor.
Like, can I experience that even for a little bit?
Yeah, was just so focused on the task at hand that everything else was out of my mind.
So, Amelia, this is your growth zone. This is your potential paradigm shift. Underneath it all, it's okay, I got to turn my phone off at such and such a time. And I have to, all of that good stuff probably will need to dial in. But it doesn't help. We could turn your phone off. And if your brain is still worried, thinking, we haven't achieved anything. You're still not present. You're not here. So, this singular focus or the unitasking model is what I'm hearing is the shift. Is that right or something else?
So I think two things. One, I think being able to focus in on the thing that I'm doing. So I'm playing with Harley, I'm playing with Nina, and that's what I'm doing. I'm okay. I'm at peace with the fact that my emails are off and in another place, and I'm not taking over to do lists in my brain. And then I think it's also being able to find time. I think one of the things that's missing from my life since having children is my ability to have unstructured thinking, brain wandering time, which was so important for my process. So when I was doing my PhD, there was a big hill up behind my house, and you would get to the top and you had this amazing view over the ocean. And I did some of my best problem solving and thinking walking up that hill, where it was like, I wasn't at the computer. My brain was just working through things and processing. There was something about like climbing to the top of a hill that really was helpful for my problem solving. And then I had this sort of like peaceful view of the ocean and then peaceful descent. Whereas like my brain was at rest because it had been given the space to wander.
So check that out. So I'm almost seeing a balance or the right mix, if you will, of that kind of time versus swimming and beach time versus getting your shit done at work, all of the details versus being with your kids and playing.
And not to mention like quality time with my husband.
Can you imagine a pie chart right now of the right ratio of those times?
Ideally, I would have time for all of them. And I think that's one of the reasons is that I need all of those things. And right now, the balance is off.
Yeah.
And so they're just bubbling up in other moments.
So I don't know if this is like too simplistic or goofy, but could one of your pieces of homework be whether it's a pie chart or you use some other, way of representing what you think the right balance is that brings out your best as a mother, as a wife, as a leading researcher on healing the oceans and the coral reefs, et cetera. Like, okay, for Amelia to operate at best, this is how this woman's wired. This is what's needed.
Yeah,
Would that be useful? Would that be a pivotal shift if you could visualize it somehow and really ostensibly see the balance?
I think so. Because I know that I don't have it and I haven't had it for a while.
Because I want something to measure the shift by going, if this is the not just the ideal, but what's needed is this mix. And then this is the current mix. Then we see the delta and go, all right, we got to change it.
Yeah.
So, Amelia, here's another little take. So, I'm very interested in you in doing that homework for one thing, because what that's going to force, and we've played with this at least around the edges, but it's going to force function of if this is the balance, then some shit's going to have to go. Like it doesn't all fit, and you're going to have to make some different choices
Yeah.
and find solutions for the fact that you can't do everything in your life. However, when it comes to coral reefs and sustainability, what are some of the fundamental underlying principles that you are trying to implement in the world to make that balance in the ocean work with all of the circumstances of the world it exists in?
Well, you need to get them to a healthy state where there's ecological integrity, but then also, can deliver the services that people need.
The fisher people need, and all of the,
Yeah. The, coastal protection, the cultural well-being.
So, where I'm going is apply that same model to you, to your ecological health and sustainability. And then you have to have a model that allows that to continue and not just get overloaded, overstressed, where the whole coral reef breaks down again.
Yeah, like I don't think that my pattern is necessarily sustainable. And certainly in the past, I've known like when I got a life threatening kidney infection because I ignored flu like symptoms. I thought I had the flu and I kept working. And then I
Jesus.
went to the doctor and he was like, you have a septicemia from a kidney infection.
Amelia.
And I was like, oh, I thought I had the flu. But then I'm like, well, why was I working with even if I thought I had the flu, why was I still working with a high fever?
Why was I working? So you get this here. So I would like you to apply your same scientific, rigorous principles that you are using to solve the world's problem in the ocean to your own life, because we will have this conversation again in 5 months, next year, if you don't get the balance right.
Yeah.
So the coaching continued. Amelia committed to her pie chart, tracking how she is using her time versus the balance she wants to have, playing with the boundaries, and absolutely adding in unstructured, wandering up the hill moments. An experiment, a work in progress. Coaching always pushes to action and accountability. Amelia is a scientist, so using her own scientific paradigm and principles for coral reef sustainability makes sense to create her personal life, integrity, and sustainability. And I really have taken all of this to heart, shifting my paradigm from if I just get more done, try harder, then I can rest. Flipping it to if I rest, float for a bit, I will get more done. It's simple, really. The discipline of working smarter, not harder. I just seem to need to come back to that knowing again and again. What are you walking away with from this growth moment? Pause and jot down your most important insights or ahas. What can you control? Where do you do your best thinking, your best being? What might your growth zone look like to create the balance and life flow that you crave? Maybe you make your own pie chart, see the ratio you're aiming for, establish some key boundaries, delegate or delete a whack of things from your list, schedule in what brings you alive. Reimagine the whole darn thing. Be bold on behalf of your sustainability. I am here, cheering you on. I believe that your balance matters and that you have the power to change it today. Please do connect with me for your own growth moment. One-on-one private coaching, or join one of my coaching groups or workshops. thegrowthmoment.com has the latest and greatest, or subscribe and follow on your favorite podcast app. Now get out there and grow today.